we have this exciting panel. This topic is about emerging technology trends in NBFC space, exploring the potential of AI, IoT, chatbots, and beyond. So, eminent speakers are here with us. Roopesh Chandran, who is the Chief Operating Officer, Bank of Baroda Financial Services Solutions Limited, BOB Solutions, BOB Financial Solutions Limited. Hardik Thaker, who is the Deputy Vice President and Head of Digital Analytics and BI for Aadhar Housing Finance, and Gautam Bandyopadhyay, who is the Chief Executive Officer and mm, founder of Trustt. So let me request Gautam to start this panel itself and set up this context of discussion. And since your company is like an important player in this AI space, so you can like talk about how this space is evolving and what are the trends.
Yeah, thank you, Ravi. No, and if I'm too energetic, Ravi is to blame, right? Okay. Yeah. So, my name is Gautam, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Trustt, and we are actually into building products for the banking and the financial services sector, NBFCs, banks, and so on, and including a generative AI product that we have built. But very, very excited about what the developments are happening in the generative AI space. In terms of the things that I see, and of course, there's a very esteemed panel out here, and they will be also talking about their experience of having used that. I was in a Forrester conference a few days ago. Okay, I mean a couple of weeks ago, and it was a conference on generative AI, okay, and its impact across sectors, including financial services sector. And they were saying that while there's a very large percentage of the work that is going on is still in the experimentation stage and in the exploration stage, okay, there is definitely a huge tailwind, okay, in terms of adoption that is going to come in this particular industry. And there is a reason. Okay, if you now look at, in terms of the earlier versions of AI before generative AI was in place, before ChatGPT became, like a household name because everybody started using it, and before that, AI was being used, but AI can be only used by organizations of very large scale. Okay, those who have deep pockets, okay, they can invest, and it was a very fast changing, space as well. So that made it very difficult for it to be adopted. Now, I can tell you one thing, and I'll give you some examples also, subsequently when we, keep talking about it, in terms of how it has become a lot more easier with generative AI. Okay, it is now very much in the reach of, small size or at least medium size, NBFCs and banks upwards, without they having to invest a whole lot of technological thing. And there are very practical use cases that are coming out of it. Okay, so the practicality of using it in various use cases, whether it is for product discovery, okay, where the customer actually can discover what are the products that is best suited for him or her, okay, or the customer support, which is also one of the low hanging fruits as per that, the study that or the session that I attended. Okay, or in terms of sales assistance also, meaning assisting your own salespeople to do the sales better. Okay, there are multiple such use cases which is there. So I think, overall I would say that the time of generative AI and practical applications of the generative AI is very much in, is very much doable now, and it is not even going to cost a whole lot of money and investment to get advantage of that. The ROIs are looking really, really good. Okay, so with that, I think, I'll pass it on to others, and then
So Hardik, I will like request him to speak and especially like talk about in your organization how you have adopted these technology like AI or uh, chatbots, and what has been the impact and the benefit, and what are the emerging challenges.
He rightly talked about there are certain low-hanging fruits, right? So when you are starting this transformation, you don't want to crack a problem which is not yet been solved, or it will not give you impact. Because initially, when you start something big, right? Because bringing AI revolution within the organization has its own challenges. So customer service is a one area which is a low hanging fruit because company spends a lot of capex, opex to run call centers, run customer service, right? And the bigger challenge with this ecosystem is that the ecosystem which resides outside your organization suffer with very high churn rates, right? If you talk about call centers or a customer support centers, there you see there are a lot of churn rates. The people who you train come go, and it becomes very subjective sometimes, and then customer suffers a lot, right? Now if you start focusing on these areas, you will get a instant results in the organizational efficiencies, the results which are delivered. So when we started, our focus was there. The another aspect of bringing objectivity to the internal processes is credit underwriting, right? What happens that when you have people who are underwriting applications, and if we talk about customers in our segments, right, we don't cater to customers who are very formal. They have ITR handy, they have their bank statements, okay, they are operating into cash ecosystem. They don't have their documents handy or ready, or sometimes there are no documents, right? Now underwriting them becomes very subjective. Now, if we want to say that a guy X and Y, okay, they were underwrite with the same documents, with the same income, with the same kind of a property, there are chances that X might be picked and Y might be dropped, right? But we want to bring objectivity to it. So that's where we started leveraging AI ML models for our credit underwritings. Okay, so that is another area where NBFC should focus. And during my last visit to US, I met a guy from Bank of America. When he talked about generative AI, there was one use case into customer support and customer engagement that was pretty interesting for me to see generative AI working at a scale. So they are catering to 4 million customer with a only 20 people call center. Now how this is achieved is when a customer calls, their whole CRM is integrated with their own generative AI tool, which translates real-time queries into the questions, and that those questions are fired into their back systems. So for example, a customer called and inquired about his bank balance. Instantaneously, the bank balance was on the CRM screen and the guy was answering to it, right? Then he asked about a solution in the wealth management. Now that guy was from the accounts department, he doesn't know anything about wealth management. But since the whole ecosystem was integrated, the system was throwing the answers for the wealth management system. And instead, that guy who used to earlier say, "Ki, sir, wait kar lo, I'll transfer your call to another department," and then there are drop offs, he was answering to the customer right away, and the whole transaction was closed within 10 minutes without forwarding call, right? Now when you think of it, that the generative AI, we have seen those chat GPT where the answers are getting generated, some Firefly demos where images are getting generated, but it is way beyond that, right? So the organization has to think, and I'll quote unquote his statement from the previous session, that West is now following India in the financial services. And that's a huge win. Wherever I went in US, I was talking to guys and everyone was telling that we want to adopt a lot of things from India. And that's a big win for a country like us. And there are many players who are contributing to this.
Fantastic, and I like really impressive. And what we heard in like last like sites, matlab, these are amazing. Requesting our next speaker, Roopesh, to speak about this AI and chatbots, and what has been like your experience in this sector, and how do you see the future?
Uh, so, Dr. Ravi, I will just take a step back first. When we say AI, most of us think artificial intelligence. We consider it as artificial. I would want to change that AI to be called as augmented intelligence. What a human does, augment it. The example just now my fellow colleague gave is augmenting it, right? He could have answered it provided he was trained. The example which he just gave, that he was from finance or whatever that was, and wealth management was the question asked, accounting, and he was asked the wealth management question. The augmentation of his intelligence was what the system did. It was not artificial, it was augmentation. Now look at AI's implementations which we speak about today, right? You would have known about touch sensitive lights. You walk into a room and the light comes up. Many of the hotels implemented. I remember my childhood, we used to have school projects where you used to say clap and the light goes on. That was a wow thing at that time. But today it's BAU, right? We all see it everywhere around us. Today it's part of our life. So what was a thought at that time of convenience became a practicality today. And there are many more things like that. So AI is augmenting our life over a period of time. Of course, what has happened now, and I think in the previous panel also we discussed, the COVID period actually accelerated the speed of adoption. So now what we think used to take 4-5 years is happening maybe in 4 months, 5 months, or sometimes in 4 or 5 days also. You think of an idea, there are people to bet money on it and they will implement it. And we see whether it is adopted later. So the risk-taking aptitude has increased. There is money out there, venture capitalists who are ready to put money on it. They are going to put money on an idea. And there are people who are ready to take it as a challenge, as a test and learn capacity, right? So that has helped augment that much better. To the second point as to how do we see it, the point my fellow colleague said, and I also said in the morning, was we have to follow our own path now. We don't have to look for east, west or anything. We have to have our own path because India has a huge opportunity. There is an India, there is a Bharat, there is India, Bharat in between, irrespective of the nomenclature the government talks about, but there is a very distinct 2-3 types of Indias within this country. And there are different customers, consumers at different levels of sophistication that exist. So our augmented reality, augmented intelligence is very different to what a Dr. Ravi will think about it, to what I will think about it, what the Panwala or the Naril Paniwala which is standing outside will think about it. All of them need that augmentation in their life. And that is what, as fellow players in this space, are trying to address. We look at an example of underwriting, right? What does underwriting basically do? It looks at ability and intent to pay. Ultimately, it is that. It is judging whether whom I'm giving money will give me back the money or not, looking at documents. Now, those documents at one time used to be physical documents. Today, they are data. And those data are not traditional data anymore. There are data like how many contacts in your list, what is your social profile, what is your Facebook profile. There used to be a black history of everyone called Orkut. I do not know how many of you remember it, but all of us had that black history, right? But that existed. Today, Facebook, if you talk to youngsters, I don't think they talk about Facebook anymore. They have moved on in their lives. And there's a different social scheme itself. So you have to find out those places which will give you more insights and make better judgments. So AI should actually help you speed up things. They are like, in our childhood, we used to call kunjis or keys of how you used to answer things, right? So they are shortcuts to find ways of doing things. So Control C, Control V is a passe now. Now you're looking at different means of finding better ways of doing things, and AI helps you think that better. So that's how I look at it from AI perspective.
Asking another set of question is that what is the, as an organization, what is the economic impact? What is the effect on your profits, top line, bottom line, when you start using
absolutely.
AI?
So I think I was going to build upon, in terms of what Roopesh and Hardik talked about. Okay, so Roopesh, nice term, augmented intelligence. Okay, and we're trying to help people. So sales assistance, okay, is one of the use cases which is again a low hanging fruit in terms of how do you help your agents or how do you help your field people to do a conversation in a much more effective manner, right? So, and that is all powered by the knowledge base that is already existing within the bank. Okay, but humans, we have our own limitation. Okay, if there are more than 5 or 6 parameters, we will jumble up. Okay, I mean, a very good person having excellent analytical ability will be probably able to juggle 5 or 6 things at the same time and come up with something. But machines have no such limitations. Okay, the algorithms have no such limitations. Again, AI is not something that is new, which is being used. Okay, it has been in the use for last few decades, but it has been on a different scale. It required very large resources. The resources are not available, and all that was a challenge. Okay, so one aspect is that. The second aspect is in terms of Bharat. Okay, India, Bharat, and there are multiple aspects there. I'm sure as NBFCs, most of you are actually operating in a very large way in tier 3, tier 4, tier 5. Okay, the banks are also looking at those markets as their new expansion, because there is some amount of saturation that will keep coming up. How much can you sell in the same urban centers, right? So there again, okay, there is and I think we are going to demonstrate you also as well, okay, in the next sessions. Okay, we need to be multilingual capable. Okay, we need to actually cater to the customer. They can only speak in, let's say, Hindi or Tamil or Telugu, or Kannada, and so on and so forth, or Oriya or Bengali, right? We need to understand that, and then answer it in that context, because they are unlikely to be, speaking to the bank in English, right? So these are the, from a ROI perspective, Ravi. Okay, I think you look at let me take the example, the popular example of the customer support, right? If you look at large banks, they are probably through in-house and outsourced resources, they may be having lakhs of people doing customer support. Okay, and yet, is there anybody here who can raise your hand and say that you are really satisfied with the customer support that you get from your customer, from your provider? No, it's a broken experience. Okay, and then you call, you still have to go through. Our options have changed, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the language selection, and then it's very hard to actually go to your point directly. It's very hard to give a contextual answer, right? And that's where the ROI is huge. Okay, like Hardik also mentioned that there are millions of customers being handled by a small team of 20. Okay, even if it is 20 per shift. Okay, and it's actually, let's say, 60 or so. Okay, even then it's a huge ROI. So there is the amount of ROI that exists in terms of acquiring customers, in terms of originating customers and supporting customers, and you're assisting on your own sales force, okay, and your own agents in order to do conversations proper. They are the low hanging fruits. Of course there is, and of course, when it comes to credit underwriting and things like that, there has been AI adoption for a while. Okay, there are different models of AI that has been there. Generative AI or a specifically large language model, I'm not too sure. Okay, because they are not that explainable. Okay, and you'll have problems with the regulators if the models are not that explainable. But although I know, but these use cases, I straightforward see a huge ROI for even a small or a medium size NBFC. Forget about the large banks. For them to this ROI is going to be significant. What I think.
ROI works where most of the times we are looking at AI are places which are repetitive actions, right? We look at consistency. The example which you gave, 5 people doing. Now 5 people are like 5 fingers. They will all behave very differently. Right? What AI tries to do is bring consistency that all 5 fingers behave the same. Now all places that can't be true. You need to have bespoke handling of certain things. So there will always be the human part of it which has to be there. No matter how much AI comes through, what it cannot do is, and what it should not do, as institutions we have to be very careful, is it should not replace the human touch. Right? It should not start treating everyone in the same way. The problem with most of us is, uniqueness which we all have is, we all think in our native language, in our mother tongue, and we speak in English. Sometimes in that translation, there is a lot of loss that happen. So if you look at a simple example like Shashi Tharoor writes wonderful English, but for his English, I need a dictionary along with it to be reading it. Whereas if Sudha Murthy's magazine if I'm reading, or if a Chetan Bhagat novel I'm reading, I don't need it. Both of them are writing English, but they're very different, right? My intelligence is not being challenged in the later part of it, but the first one it is getting challenged. Same thing happens when we do AI implementations in systems. Many a times we make it so complicated, right? The menu options, the AI becomes an AI for itself. Right? You need an AI to decipher that AI. So the challenge will be to find the right balance where that human touch is not lost away. Whether it is customer service, whether it is underwriting, there will be aspects of subjectivity, there will be aspects of human interpretation which will be required, because not everything is consistent. If you look at simple things like addresses, how addresses are written, how we ourselves write. If we write our home address and I ask you to write it 15 times on a paper, you will write it at least 3 times differently. You will write an opposite something somewhere else, you write next to somewhere else, and if you look colloquial, you will write iske aage, iske piche, iske bagal mein. And similarly in other languages. They all mean the same, but how do you make it decipherable from a systems perspective is very important. And how do you make it equitably understandable for everyone? Because one part, if you automate, other part, if it is not automated, the risk of lost in translation happens. And that's the bigger risk that we run.
uh, a slightly contradictory statement, but there is a big challenge. I don't want to scare the audience, but there is a big challenge which is coming, right? When AI takes over, and that is true, right? Till 2018, everyone, was into digitalization of the ecosystem. Then 2018 to 2020, it was all about analytics and AI is coming, and there are a lot of things that we can do. But when ChatGPT came and showed the power to the world, and nowadays, if we talk about lot of players into generative AI space, the replacement of jobs of humans is inevitable. It is going to out, and that will happen. But now the bigger challenge for industry leaders is to think about how we are going to solve it, because we don't want to get into the HR crisis, or a mankind crisis, right? But we have to think about such a way that when computers came in 1990s to the banking ecosystems, there used to be a separate computer team who are connected a mainframe computer to the main systems. If I talk about SBI, right, not all branches were connected to their core servers. There were operations were performing, and people were afraid that our jobs will be lost, right? But now you think about the system after 20 years, that everyone knows computer and everyone is working digitally, right? Everyone is connected from everywhere. Then a time came where customers are connected to your systems, right? The time changed. When mobile phone came, everyone were thinking that, now what will happen to branches, right? The branch ecosystem will be disrupted. Now customer don't want to go to a branch. If I talk about myself, I have been associated with a bank for maybe 10 years and I have never visited their branch for nothing. Everything I can do on my computer or my mobile, right? Now the same thing is happening with AI. Now AI is coming, but if we don't translate this whole ecosystem to adopt the AI into their core services, it will create a bigger problems. And generative AI, when you look at the scale, when you look at their whole backend operation. I was reviewing one insurance company in US. They are disbursing insurance in 2 minutes, right? Be it a car insurance, general insurance, anything in 2 minutes. Now think about it. Earlier, insurance used to take a involvement of maybe 50 to 100 people. Now there are no people involved. The company don't have the large staff. Now, if these technologies are getting adopted by everyone, there is going to be a human resource crisis, and we need to start, act, think, and create something around it. Otherwise, there will be a problem everywhere in the world, and that is inevitable. That is what I think personally.
There is nothing better than being a contrarian to a contrarian. Uh, but I truly believe, and I think Gautam answered it also, Hardik answered it also when he was framing that statement. 90s computers came in. I'm sure all of us know 90s to 2023, India's population has only increased, right? Jobs have only increased. What changes is the type of jobs, right? So the skill sets that were required in the 90s are very different to today. Industrial revolution, when it happened in the 18th century, everyone thought jobs will be lost because everyone thought looms were the only thing, handlooms was the only thing. अगर करखा नहीं चलेगा, चरखा नहीं चलेगा, तो कपड़ा नहीं बनेगा. That's not true. Industrial revolution happened, we became Manchester of the East and whatever that is. But today also there are a lot of people who are involved in it. The skill sets change. So I take the point which he said, we have to be adopting it. We have to enhance ourselves. the intelligence level which was required for the first wave of AI is very different to what is will be required for the second wave, because people will migrate from the first AI to the second AI. And that's the beauty of human beings. Unlike animals, we start adopting to newer things, right? Opposable thumbs came in. Many said after sometimes you may not have 5 fingers, you'll have only 2 fingers, because this is what you use for clicking on the screen all the time. Left swipe, right swipe. So only 2 fingers are what you're using. But that has still a time to go. We will adopt to that. So the AI, while jobs, maybe the scarier part will be jobs will be, the traditional jobs will be gone. You'll have new set of jobs, you'll have new set of people who will create jobs for others. And there will be different skill sets that will be required in the market. So there I have a contrarian view, but I do agree. We have to be accepting the change. If we resist it, we will become the Neanderthal man who was lost, right? It will be a species which will be lost. But otherwise, human beings will continue to grow.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think I hold the same view. So I'm not holding a dystopian view that it is going to be the end of the world or so. First of all, I think AGI, there is a long way for AGI to catch up. Okay, there is still a very, very long way. Since when we work with the actual technology, and we want it to do something, we still know that we have to do a lot of prompting and embeddings and things that we need to do. Again, these kind of jobs did not exist before. Our skill set did not exist before, but now when there is a certain demand for the skill set, and that people are learning this, so we will be adapting. Okay, and for sure, I mean, that's what has kept us alive for so many years. And there'll be new jobs coming in. Okay, and not, I mean, but at the same time, I think we will have to call for responsible use of AI. Okay, I think that's very extremely important. In the previous session, somebody was mentioning that AI driven threat is also a reality now, correct? So there'll have to be people who will be countering that AI driven threat. Okay, it's a new job that is definitely coming up. So I think that's what it is. It's like a tool. Okay, if you don't use the tool, then you'll become obsolete. Okay, or you'll a Neanderthal man, as you said. Okay, so the new generation will adopt this tool. They will learn this. They will improve their productivity. Maybe 4-day week will start. Who knows? Okay, yeah.
In fact, Europe has 4 days week. Sorry, I will just want to take an example here. All of us would have read the recent news articles of one particular state in India where every bank seems to be sending crores of rupees into people's account. I don't want to name the state. I don't want to name the banks. Politically correct. I would love to go to that state and get an account there to get my account credited. What failed there? All of them had technology. All of them, I'm sure, some form of AI they would have implemented. They would have got best of technology vendors to do it. Basic maker checker thing failed, maybe from a banking perspective, if I say, right, of a transaction posting. They forgot the human part of that AI. AI needs I first. Intelligence नहीं है तो AI करके कोई फायदा नहीं है. So let's first get the I right. Then comes the AI, then AI, and whatever else comes after that. But I has to be here first. वो नहीं होगा, then everything is a problem. So ROI में भी I है. वो I रहना चाहिए, नहीं तो बाकी सब कुछ ROI है, सब return हो जाएगा. So let's have that first. वो investment in the human being, investment in technology, investment just for the sake of investment will not help. So let's have that nuance being there, and everything else will work. Like rightfully said Gautam, people will adopt, right? People will have to change because speed of execution is happening. We all want different things. We all want better things. We all want to have lesser response time. मेरे बोलते ही आंसर मिल जाना चाहिए, right? Till before COVID, most of us were happy going to shopping mall and all picking up things. Now most of us do online shopping. Does that mean shops have closed? They haven't. They have mushroomed more. Look at pre-94. There were only PSU banks, new wave of private sector banks came in, HDFC, ICICI. Did any of the PSU banks close? Have their businesses gone down? I come from a parentage of 120-year-old institution. We are still thriving. We are the second largest bank, right? So there is enough and more for everyone to do. We have to find our niches, find our ways of doing things better, because we as people are expecting better things.
Excellent. And any questions or feedback, audience? Yes. Please identify yourself Your name and organization. Uh,
Get a mic there.
Raise your hand, please. Yes. Mic here, please. On the right. Give your name and organization and keep the question brief, like so that others can also ask.
Sure. My name is Jayesh Sodha. I'm founder of marketpower.in. It's a platform for financial solutions. Mike, I would love to hear more about the Web3 development that's happening in this finance space, because that's where, you know, the trend is towards. So if that part could be discussed, that would be ideal.
Any other question or feedback? Anyone? देख लेते हैं question. Okay. Yeah. Stand up and ask so people can see your face also. Please stand up and ask. Yeah.
So this is Madhusudan from Aditya Birla Finance. On the generative AI side, when we talk about the customer service, which was one of the main focus area. On the underwriting side, so there has always been that the intent to pay has always been missing. And that has been, when we work with so many fintechs, we have not been able to solve the intent to pay side. So is there anything progressive happening on that front? That's the first question. And the second one is, throughout history, if you see how the lending has been done, now considering we worked with so many fintechs, even in my previous experience, I saw, in spite of having some good models around the side, risk models, still delinquencies were quite high. Now, and I felt, as Rupam suggested, I really felt that I was missing, even when the whole risk models where everything was in place. And there was so much on the common sense side. And in the previous session, we talked about greed. Now, that was one part that came into being, in spite the technology was, every scorecard, everything. So what is that, is generative AI coming even onto, is able to solve that problem?
So let me take it. I come from a company, from a business which thrives on people's misery, right? If you don't pay is when I make money. That's a business, right? So nothing about it. To your question as to how will intent to pay will come through, right? What is intent? Intent is a very individual decision making. It is not a score. It is not a number. It is not out there. I can have parameters. I can have influences. I can have evaluation matrices to say this person has capability. He has ability. He has resources. Okay. Intent is intrinsic. It is like moral science, right? How do you say this person is not going to default over a period of time? And many times intent is not permanent. Intent is situational, right? During 2007-8, if some of you were part of the credit history at that time, you know the seesaw that happened. The Great Depression of the US or the recent home loan crisis which happened, they happened because of situation. So the intent got influenced because of situation. What AI can do is now start predict those seasonalities. And it's a cycle, it's a virtuous cycle. What goes up has to come down. It's a natural phenomenon. Sun goes up, sun comes down, right? It is the sun. Similarly, credit cycles will go up, credit cycles will go down. There was a microfinance crisis. We had a microfinance people who talked before this, right? They went through a crisis before they came to self-regulation, before the interest rate got fixed. Otherwise, they were making moolas of money at the misery of those people, right? So everything was hunky-dory till that time. Of course, again, one political party said, don't pay. It happened from one state and it destroyed everything around. So the intent got spoiled because, not because those people went bad. They were paying before also. Self-help groups, JLGs, they all work today also. They all used to work that time also. Women's self-help group is the best thing, everyone says. But the same women health self-help group brought down the largest MFI in this country because someone said, don't pay and nothing happens to you. So that intent got influenced. All of them are with I, surprisingly, right? It is. And the fact is because it is individual driven. What influences me today determines my behavior. Dr. Ravi treated me so well, I'm wanting to say nice things about him. The moment Dr. Ravi doesn't treat me well, I will backstab him. Because that intent has nothing to do with Dr. Ravi. It is my choice to do that. Maybe that's psychology that we are talking about, but that's a reality. And please remember, we are dealing with human beings. No matter how wonderful a customer service you create, you cannot guarantee that every interaction with that customer will be 100% satisfaction. It will not be. The same menu which he said, wow, the previous time, next time he will find 100 things that went wrong with it. And that is why AI has to forever be improving. Because what intelligence, like I said before, the intelligence that determined the first AI is not the intelligence that will determine the next AI. It has to keep on changing. So we all have to keep on evolving for it. So that intent will have a challenge because that has to have a personal touch to it. It's a human part of it.
Excellent
I think
inputs. Yeah,
the feedback loop, what Roopesh talked about, is a very important one. It has to keep learning from the real data as and when and the model has to keep tweaking. That is one thing. And of course, the other thing is that in when you build the model itself, there has to be intelligence, which is happens to be human intelligence, the data that needs to come in. Because if you build garbage in and garbage out, right? Okay, so you cannot assume that AI will work magic for you. Okay, I mean, AI has to be invested and continuously reinvested in terms of the data coming in. LLM is making that easier. Okay, what is happening is that earlier it was a very tough thing to do. It required a lot of investments and things like that to be done. Now, large language models, and I'll take this example of this chatbots, right? The chatbots that were based on NLP, the natural language processing, and they were basically an FAQ, intent-based thing. You talk to any one of your colleagues in the banking sector, they'll tell you it took 2 years, 2.5 years, 6 months it took to get the first response right. Okay, that's the kind of experience that you will get it. Okay? Because the technology was not good enough. Today we have done, and in terms of we have just ingested the FAQ of what is in the public web, and that is what we will also demonstrate to you too, in terms of the HDFC Bank. And then you ask a question in any form or factor, stumble, mixed languages and things like that, it still catches the context, and it is quite easy. And this learning took just 3 weeks for us to do that. Okay, so that's the fundamental change, which is going to be a significant improvement. That's why generative AI is very important for us. Okay, it is suddenly making AI more democratic. It's suddenly making AI actually available for all of you guys to to use it, explore it, and actually derive business benefits. And that's what we think is the big change that's going to happen.
Yeah, I'll just add 2 points where he talked about underwriting and delinquencies, right? So he precisely talked about external factors on intent to pay, right? So we assess intent to pay as well as the credit behavior, right? So intent to pay, we don't have a control when there are external factors involved. Certainly your whatever models you have created, all models failed during the COVID time, right? You can't do anything. But when you want to explore the credit behavior of a customer, okay, you have created a model. He talked about the revision of the models. You constantly monitor whether it's performing or not. And when you see that it's not performing, it's time for you to go and talk to business to get that augmentation, that you are missing out something. Some data points which are there and you have not incorporated within the systems, and there will be certain scenarios where you will force fit the models because those are hard rules. There many a time people forget while training the models that certain scenarios should be force fit because you will not find a trend, but the business people who have the augmentation intelligence of the business ecosystem will tell you that this should be eliminated. So certain force fitting you must do, and people don't do that. They want that, no, AI, let AI tell you what to do, and they completely ignore the business, right? And that time their model starts failing because when certain ecosystem, external factor goes bad, only that augmentation intelligence of the business will help you to thrive using these models.
I think excellent session. I think applaud for audience है आना चाहिए, इतना शानदार डिस्कशन हुआ और
Absolutely.
और इस लाइक डिस्कशन पे मतलब आई कैन लाइक गो ऑन एंड गो ऑन बट लाइक इट्स ऑलरेडी लाइक टाइम्स अप, सो आई विल समराइज इन ए
One last question. I think we
नहीं,
have.
नहीं हमारे पास बिल्कुल अभी जो टाइम नहीं है, सो वी विल हैव दिस क्वेश्चन आगे हम कर लेते हैं और आई विल जस्ट लाइक समराइज दिस सेशन विद ए शेयर कि बिकॉज लाइक समवन सेड कि एआई आएगा तो फिर एम्प्लॉयमेंट खत्म हो जाएगी, फिर बात नहीं निकली कि एआई में ये बार बार और हमें मॉडल्स और लेसन्स को बार बार फीड करना पड़ेगा, तो उसके चक्कर में एम्प्लॉयमेंट और जनरेट होने वाली है। तो इस पे लाइक आई विल लाइक समराइज द सेशन इन शेयर दैट कि हर मंजिल के बाद नजर आई मंजिल एक नई, हर मंजिल के बाद नजर आई मंजिल एक नई, और हर सफर के बाद नया सफर करना पड़ा।
क्या बात है,
Okay.
वाह।